Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for Year of No Gear. This is I believe this is episode 15. I always lose count. But today we've got James Arbery with us. James is a local musician and teacher, does a lot of stuff with a great local band, Soul Strutters, a lot of funk and soul stuff. They are probably one of my top two bands to go and see if you're out and about on the Bristol scene, virus permitting. Definitely go and catch Soul Strutters. They are excellent. He's also got a YouTube channel where he does some of his more metal things, and that's also incredibly cool. And he's a teacher. So James, thanks for being with us today, mate. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. That's all right. And thank you for enjoying the other podcasts as well, because you were checking a few of them out before, which was very
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's helped help me do the washing up quite a lot at home. I've just
nice.
been whacking those on and yeah, cleaning the dishes and having a good listen.
I'm interested. Is there an episode that you favored the best? Is there one that you really enjoyed?
No, to be honest, I think they've all been pretty different, if I'm honest. Yeah, everyone's got lots of different stories. I mean, there's quite a few of the same themes of, I think people buy gear to sort of make them think that they're going to play better.
Yeah, yeah, which I hope we'll talk about today, because that is absolutely a thing. There's a video upcoming. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but I did fail my challenge spectacularly about 2 weeks ago. So we're going to talk about that in a video coming, and then we're going to hopefully get back on the wagon again.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I thought I listened to a podcast where you had already failed that.
I did. Yeah, so I bought a pedal, and then about 2 or 3 weeks after that, I bought a guitar. But I have,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but I have some guitars on the way out, so hopefully, it won't be too disastrous, and I can sort of. But yeah, that's part of the reason why we were so silent for a while, actually, because I was trying to work out a way to spin that. But it's all right. We're all back on track for the time being, anyway.
Good. That's all right
It's
then.
a weird year. It's a weird year.
Isn't it just?
So
Blimey.
speaking of the weird year, how is your relationship with buying gear, James? How do you find you are with like buying equipment and things like that? Especially like you can go like in a present year or now, because I know a couple of people have felt the pull, especially during during virus times. But if there's
Mm.
how do you find it?
I guess for me, as far as it goes, it's mainly been guitars that have been my sort of downfall. Um, but I went through phases. I guess right from the word go, I spent a bit of time just trying to find that guitar that felt right, but I never got rid of the others. Like that's the second guitar I ever had.
Mm.
But it is quite special to me, that one. Um, but yeah, I just kind of feel ah the yeah, it's just how can I say this? Yeah, sort of buying guitars does feel sort of do you find it quite hard to sort of break up with a guitar, essentially?
I so I understand the concept. I've gotten better at it over the years. It's it's a build up for me very much of like consumerist belief of what you need guitars for. I think that's what I struggle with the most, because everyone's got that list in their head, right, of like instruments that you think you're supposed to own, or sounds you think you're going to be expected to cop. Things like everyone needs a Strat, everyone needs a Telly, everyone,
Yeah.
there's like that list. So as soon as I can get myself away from thinking about that, which again I'm sort of getting to now, um, it works for me. But and in the same way, I'm really inspired by people who don't do that, who don't think about that, like yourself with your PRS guitars and things like that, where it's just like you have a small number of instruments, they work, and you're
Mm.
not stuck in that hole, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I guess like I've always had a guitar for quite a long time before sort of moving on to the next one. And in between that, I maybe have had the odd couple that I've used, but it was never quite the same as. So I think when we first met, I was using like a Maverick guitars, possibly.
Yeah. So yeah, me and James go back about 10 years. When I first started gigging on the Bristol scene in an original band, James was in a band called Neo Ritmo that were also doing kind of like progressive metal, wasn't it? That was kind of what I would describe it as, a little bit.
Yeah, there was definitely yeah, a bit of sort of thrash involved with it. Kind of that sort of stoner rock edge as well on some of the riffs and whatnot, which was yeah, always really good fun.
Mm. Yeah. So you would have been playing. I can't remember what you were playing, but yeah. So how did you get from the Maverick guitars to the PRS guitar? Do you have any Maverick stuff now, or do you just
I've
PRS?
still got two of them. I managed to get rid of a few of the others. Yeah, I went through a bit of a Maverick phase, but I had the F3. That was I would call it my first proper guitar, and yeah, I just kind of gigged the hell out of that. Really enjoyed the sound of it, how it felt, and then between that, there was just like a few other sort of models that I wanted to try, give a go. And then from there, I did buy a Strat at one point. But to be honest, the only reason why I got it is like I turned 18. My bank gave me a credit card,
Right, nice.
and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if this works." And it did. And yeah, I had a Strat for a little bit. Really enjoyed that. I ended up getting rid of that just because it just didn't feel. It didn't have that depth that the Mavericks kind of did for the heavier stuff. And then I got a Gibson Les Paul Custom
Black or white?
white.
Oh, see, I'm a black fan, but fair enough. Like, yeah, like, they're both still very cool.
Yeah, definitely. But I had quite a few issues with it. Um, so I ended up part Xing it for that white PRS,
Right.
and that's just been the guitar I've kind of sort of had ever since, really.
So what is it about that guitar that is it just that there's not been a job you've come across where it can't get it done for you? Do you own any other PRSs, or is it just the one that you use?
Shamefully, I own exactly the same model, just in a different color.
Okay, that's not shameful. Well, if it works and that's the only ones you use, then I'm like you as well, mate. Like I will not do a gig without a backup. It
Oh,
just
I actually only ever just take the one.
Oh, do you? See, I'm
Yeah.
like I'm too scared in case of a horrible failure. But yeah,
I
well,
guess I always used to. I always used to take two guitars to gigs. One would be in drop D because of the floating bridge,
yeah,
and then the other would be in standard. The other PRS at the moment is in drop C sharp, so that's my kind of sort of yeah, run chun kind of guitar.
nice.
Um, but yeah, just that PRS, it just feels so good. Just really nice to play. Just sits nicely, well balanced. It's quite light, but it's got that sustain. The pickups are really interesting. The narrow field pickups.
And there's
They've
three
got
of them, three of them, right? So it's like a Strat kind of kind of
yes.
setup.
So you've
Yeah.
got that kind of the five-way sort of switch. So you can get those nice twangs because they're sort of like mini humbuckers. You know, if you really dig in and kind of palm mute quite heavy, you can get some pretty heavy riffage on the go. I think the volume pot is quite responsive. You can really adjust how the tone you're getting from that volume pot
That's
without having to sort of worry about a huge pedal board.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. One of the things I've learned from guitars is a guitar where the volume pot works properly is invaluable. And there's a lot of guitars especially if they've got cheaper electronics in it, where they really don't. Like they just roll off too fast, or they don't, and they really rob
Yes.
you of that tonal kind of those choices. I've had a few guitars like that where I've, if they're not doing it, I will instantly change the pots because I need them to. There's just so much tone in that changing the volume. Do you know what I mean? And the
Yeah,
tones and
sure.
things, it's massive. So yeah, damn right. If they're working, they're working. So guitars are your kind of main issue. No issues with pedals or amps at all.
No, so pedal wise, I can remember quite a long time ago, I went down to it was sound control at the time.
Yeah. So that was PMT. If people can't remember what it used to be called, it was called sound control before it became PMT.
And yeah, basically, I just went down with a sort of an idea in mind, just to kind of get some pedals that would sort of see me through for everything I needed. So I just yeah, took my guitar and an amp down, just kind of tried out loads of delays, choruses, distortions, all of that kind of stuff. Whittled it down to sort of I ended up with a delay, a chorus. I already had a super overdrive which I bought off one of my mates, a DS1, the Blues Driver, and your favorite, a wah pedal.
Yeah, sorry, that was a dig there. So I'm not the biggest fan of wah pedals. That's very true. But like, yeah, so all Boss pedals, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind. I tried a few others, but yeah, the Boss ones they were really sturdy and they just did everything I kind of wanted them to, really.
Yeah, and they're close. They're close enough. They just I'm like that with Boss stuff. personally just find the durability of them and the standard of them to be much more workable than, you know, a lot of stuff. And they're still really cheap. What can you get a DS1 for now? Like 20 quid if you're buying it used?
Yeah, I think I bought it brand new for 39 quid.
Yeah, and they're still good. They're still really,
Yeah,
really good.
that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I sold that quite quickly. You know, after doing a few gigs with it, it just didn't quite cut
Mm.
the mustard. But you know, up until I got the that Victory RK50 head, I was still using the SD1. Still got the delay. I sold the chorus because yeah, all my sort of 80s metal stuff kind of faded out.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I still got that wah pedal as well.
Nice. Well, that's great. So that's it. It lasts. It lasted you. Nice. So how do you feel? So currently, I when I would have asked this in a normal time, this would have been like a currently, but it's even more interesting now that we're in what, you know, we're in the situation that we're in. How's your spending been over the past couple of weeks? Have you felt the pull? Have you bought anything? Do you feel, not that matters if you have or haven't?
Well, lockdown has kind of introduced me to plugins to
Mm.
make recording a bit sort of better. So I've discovered that neural DSP kind of stuff. So I ended up buying the Nolly and the Abassi
Right.
plugins, which are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard people talking a lot of stuff about that stuff. They really, you know, it's really popular right now, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It just makes recording at home really, really, really easy. You don't have to set up microphones or anything like that. You can do it at whatever time of the day you want without annoying the neighbors, or you know, annoying my partner and the daughter. You know, at 1 o'clock in the morning when inspiration suddenly
And
strikes.
you just plug straight in. You don't need to do anything else, right?
No, just yeah, straight into the interface, and yeah, that's it. And then you just kind of sort of yeah, tweak away on the plugin itself.
I had a thing with plugins. I got really into. You ever tried any of the Sound Toys stuff?
No, like this is all pretty new to me, and
Yeah,
I've just kind of sort of I've just hit that neural DSP, and I've just been sort of yeah slaying that for a little bit.
they do like delays and reverbs are the best things, but they do like the two I really got into is their plate reverb and their they have an echo called Echo Boy, which is like Tim Pierce uses it and stuff like that. It's a really cool stereo echo. But they had a deal on. I think I got the like each plugin for like 25 quid each or something. And
Oh, nice.
they've been great. It just sounds like a memory man sort of thing, but really really flexible. Plugins are great. They really do just like make all the difference. Totally.
Yeah, you know, like I said, for recording, you know, you don't get any of that kind of sort of bleed over from anything else. You know, if someone suddenly knocks on the door, you don't have to take, you have to redo the take.
Yeah.
You know, just I think for that kind of stuff, it's great.
Oh, Ryan
For my
Ryan
guitar
Davies
lessons as
Ryan
well.
Davies in the chat. Hi Ryan. Thanks for
Hi,
checking it
Ryan.
out. Ryan. So Ryan's like your second in command for Soul Strutter gigs,
Oh
right?
yeah, Ryan's done plenty of gigs for the Soul Striders, definitely.
Nice. Yeah. Oh man, it's cool to nice. Yeah, guys, if anyone is in the chat or watching and you wanna drop us a comment, please do because it helps us with the conversation and we like to know who's checking it out. So James, have you learned any lessons that have caused you to like get rid of gear that you had that was maybe surplus, like you had too much stuff, or you learned that you didn't need something for a job or anything like that? Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, well, I guess you know, it's when I bought all of those pedals in kind of one go, and then from then on, you know, doing more gigs and recording and stuff like that, I kind of because you know, if you've only got like a couple of hours in a shop, I don't think you can make a really solid decision. You buy the things you like, and then yeah, from there over time, you start discovering your favorites, the ones that aren't quite good enough for what you want.
Hmm.
Hence why I sold the DS1. Eventually sold the chorus pedal. Um, I did buy when I actually yeah that was another one. I bought a hardwire tube overdrive at one point.
Oh, they're great. They're really,
Um,
really good. Those hardwire pedals. They're cool. They're cool. Their reverb was wicked as well.
yeah, I got the yeah I got the hardwire supernatural reverb pedal.
Right. Nice.
Someone actually bought that for me as a you know I did some recording for them and that was my payment, which was really nice.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, when I got that white PRS, I went down to World Guitars in Stonehouse, and they
I was literally just about to say that was where I discovered them. Yeah, because they have it on the board in the room, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I tried out this guitar, and like, yeah, they put me through like the matchless kind of amp, and then all those kind of sort of hardwire pedals. And I got home and I was just like, there was a really nice tone in that, and it was either the pedal, which was 99 quid, or the amp,
Which
which
was
is
not 99
three and a
quid.
half grand.
Yeah.
You know.
That
So I
match
was like,
that match the Samp. That is did you I don't know if you heard in the old podcast, did you hear my story about the custom shop telly I bought? Have you gone?
yes, I think, yeah, you did mention
Yeah.
a matchless amp for
I
sure.
think that amp sold me that guitar. Because every time I go back and play that matchless, I'm a Vox guy as well through and through. Like Voxes are my favorite. So I'm just every time I've played that matchless, I've just gone. It's just so good. There's nothing about it that I just you know
It was a fantastic amp.
yeah.
But I ended up taking down. I had a Fender 4x10,
Okay.
which I used. I was using that in the Neo Ritmo days, and yeah, up until maybe 3 years ago,
Mm.
I was using that. So I took that down to World Guitars, and I plugged in the pedal, the hardwire, kind of hit a chord. I was like, it was the pedal.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is good. That's a good benefit because God, that amp just like still have dreams about that thing. It's so good. I don't know though. Like 3.5 grand for an amp. I get it. I understand
It's a
there.
bit questionable, if I'm honest.
Yeah, there are people who will pay it, and I get it. But knowing where I'm taking my amps, I'm always a bit like, oh, could I do it? I've done the same with Two Rock stuff. Like that real boutique amp game.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and there's always the worry about, imagine if you were touring abroad or you did something and you had to do a hire in. I'd rather know that a hireable amp is going to be, like my AC30 is not anything special. It's just like a name brand, like Chinese, one. But at least I
Mm.
know that if I rented gear or if anything happened or I needed a backup, that's easy to find. Whereas if the match list or something became part of my tone, I'd be really nervous about not being able to get the same thing.
I would not put that on the next EasyJet flight.
No, no. Well,
Never.
I wouldn't even put it in the next like bar jam. That would still
Yeah.
freak me out. I don't.
People going past and putting a pint on top of
Yeah,
it.
I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do it. They do sound fantastic, but yeah, it does make me a little bit nervous. So so would that PRS fall into the category of the best purchase you've ever made? Do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's my absolute workhorse. Always use it for teaching. Pretty much, yeah, every gig. That's going to be the one I'm gonna
That's
I'm
really
gonna
cool
use.
that you have the one guitar it just does all of your jobs. Like that's not to be sneezed at because I think a lot of us leave that behind and forget that as long as it's got 6 strings on it and you like the sound of it, it can do everything for you.
Well, yeah, that's kind of it. My approach to playing as well. Like, I mean, you've got the session people who want to, like you said, get the Strats, get the Les Pauls, because obviously they have that very particular sound. But for me, the end goal for me, I would love it if someone heard a record and was just like, "Is that James?"
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
Because I want that particular, I want my tone.
yeah.
I don't want a tone of something. I don't want to sound like someone else.
Mm.
Like Dimebag is my hero, and yeah, you could just hear what he did from a mile away.
That's really
And
cool. It's interesting
he
that
had a Dean ML,
yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah, well,
his.
yeah, it's him. Yeah. So really interesting that your gigging band is like a soul thing, but you come from like a metal background. Do you want to talk a bit
Yeah,
about the
it's funny
crossover?
where you end up.
Well, it's interesting, but like the crossover of that. Do you find that you get to use your metal chops at all in that gig? Do you use it, or how did the funk stuff start going on? Were you influenced by certain artists or anything like that to get into it?
Well, a good friend of mine, Dave Johns, was the kind of guy who got me into sort of funk and soul and stuff like that back at Access to Music in Bristol,
Yeah.
college days. Yeah, I ended up being in a band with him, and he just kind of sort of put me on to that side of things. So that's where I kind of started learning the kind of the funky chops.
Mm.
Um, and that's when I started discovering maybe the Maverick wasn't quite
Right.
what I needed. That was a rock guitar through and through. So yeah, that kind of probably would have made me look for other things. But yeah, as far as using sort of metal chops in the soul strutters, I mean, you've seen us when it comes to cutting loose. It does find its way for sure, but it seems to work, and everyone tends to enjoy it.
Shred does work weirdly well over funk and soul. I don't know why that happens, but when it's right, it really does. You know, like I'm not saying you're not like chunking or anything like that. You're not using the rhythm side of it so much, but the leads absolutely work really well
Yeah,
over it.
sort of like fast runs and stuff like that.
Mm,
Just shredding through a pentatonic. It's quite ear friendly to most people. The pentatonic is the one, I think.
mm, that's great. I
Um,
want to just ask you about that V behind you as well there, because I'm sure people are going to want to know a little bit about that. Is that a new acquisition? Have you had that recently? Is it?
no, so that actually was the second guitar I ever had, and the story behind it goes. After I'd been playing for maybe a year or so, and I started jamming with other people, band kind of situations. My little 15-watt solid state Marshall wasn't got drowned out by everything.
Mm,
So me and my dad popped down to Sound Control again to look for some amps. And as I walked in, that V was just kind of like up there, and yeah, the kind of like 17-year-old metal me was just like, ha ha ha
yeah.
ha, like that's the stuff. So tried out the amp, and I used that guitar to sort of try out a few amps and things. And yeah, when we left, I decided on an amp, and for the next like 6 weeks, every week I went back just to play that guitar.
Right.
And then I went in one week, and it was gone.
Oh no.
And so yeah, I was absolutely devastated. And yeah, I actually remember saying like, what asshole has got that? And fast forward to Christmas, kind of had the amp, opened that, and my dad bought me a nice guitar case as well. And he was like, go on, open the case. I was just like, it's a case. Let me play with the amp. And for about 2 hours, he was like, no, just open the case, see what it's like. It's like, it's a case. It's empty. I'm going to play through my new amp. And then yeah, he eventually coaxed me into opening that case. And I
Oh.
I was the lucky asshole.
Yeah, what a cool thing for your dad to do. Also, how would isn't the case like specifically shaped to the V? Would that not? Because that's all I'm
No, so
thinking.
this particular case itself it's a rectangle case, but it's
Okay,
massive.
right. Yeah, when you said about the case, I thought I think I'd probably be able to tell a V-shaped guitar in a case, but that makes perfect sense. Nice. So
Yeah, no, he was able to keep it subtle.
what is it about that guitar that your PRS doesn't do? Is it just a different vibe?
To be honest, it's not. I only recently got it back. Someone borrowed it for maybe about 3 years, and I just played it when I was doing all the metal stuff.
Mm,
And then when I got the Maverick, that kind of got sort of pushed to one side a little bit, mainly because it didn't have the. For me, I got to have a floating bridge.
okay,
If I can't do my dime screams,
you're not into
it's
it.
kind of no good really.
Oh,
So
you and me are very cut from very different cloths. But that's fair enough. You can do it. Like, you're a Jeff Beck fan as well,
I do like a bit of Jeff Beck, but I wouldn't say I have any of him in my playing.
right? Yeah, because that's when I've seen people with trem bridges and stuff. I always love seeing I like the squeals and things like that. But when people are doing the stuff that Jeff Beck does, I do really. I sort of it always makes me go, oh, I could rock a trem arm.
Yeah, he makes it very kind of. He makes his guitar lines quite vocal.
Mm,
I
yeah,
think you're not just playing. You're not just going straight to that note. You're
going
finding your
into
way
it.
to a note. So
Sure.
I'll do that from time to time. I use the tremolo more for sort of like rhythmic stuff. Hang on a note and just kind of sort of tap a rhythm on the bar and stuff.
Mm, nice.
I quite like
So,
that.
what about the biggest waste of money? What do you think is like the biggest thing you wish you'd never bought? Anything like that? Have you got any of those?
Not that it was a bad guitar to play sound wise, but that Gibson Les Paul Custom I had,
Right.
it just wouldn't stay in tune. I
Yeah.
think I just got one of the bad batches.
Les Pauls are really hard to get right. Like I'll say that now. I've played a few, and so everyone always says like the Slash Les Paul is really interesting because it's not a Gibson made one. It was a copy.
Mm.
I think it was a lawsuit guitar, but I can honestly, hand on heart, say I've played some copy guitars, some like Tokais and Grecos, and the lawsuit thing, where they're just better than mainline Gibson stuff. Obviously
Yeah,
some mainline Gibson stuff is fantastic, but it's really tough to get Les Pauls right. I don't know other guitars. Weirdly, I'm not really that fussed about, but yeah, like Les Pauls they're difficult, man. Especially the cheaper stuff. It's good ones are tough to find.
Well, yeah, buying a Les Paul Custom, I was expecting nothing but sort of, the best. But yeah, just before every time I played, I would get it in tune, and then I would just bend the strings like crazy, so it went out of tune,
Mm.
put it back in tune again, and I'd have to do that 3 times before I was confident that it would stay in tune before I played it.
Was it a mainline one, like a standard Les Paul custom, or was it like a custom shop or anything like that? What we
No, so it was just yeah, just a standard Les Paul Custom.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
nothing special about it. I think it was like a 2012 model.
Right. Yeah, that is really
Uh,
interesting. You're not alone in that though. I think a few people I know have bought some Gibson guitars and that tuning stability. I'm just out of interest. Have you tried any of the new stuff yet?
no, no. Like I said, I'm just really happy with
The
the
good
sort of
stuff.
the PRS at the moment.
So you don't play. Do you try not to play other stuff when you're in that moment? Do you actively try and keep yourself away and just don't allow yourself the
I don't get a huge amount of time to go to shops anymore at the moment, if I'm
right?
honest. Yeah, kind of teaching during the day. Got a daughter as well.
Mm.
So I normally have to take her to the shop, and she doesn't let me sit down for 5 minutes.
No. How old is your daughter?
She's 4 at the
Oh,
moment.
okay, right, yeah. So that's full on. Yeah, you are full on
Oh
dadding
yeah,
it right now. Nice.
definitely. But yeah,
So
for
there you
me, I
go.
mean, my
If you don't want to buy gear, have a kid. That'll stop it.
yeah, I wouldn't say it saves you money though.
No.
But it's great to see her with my guitars. I put Joe Bonamassa on the TV. She's rocking out the air guitar and whatever. So
Nice. That is cool. That is
that's
cool.
good.
That'd be
Um,
great to have somebody in the family that plays as well. That would be. So your biggest waste of money was that Les Paul Custom. Huh. Interesting.
yeah, I would say that. Or I did buy the PRS Sonzera amp, and once again, it sounded great, but just had nothing but trouble. I
Really?
think it
What
was
what what trouble did you have with it? Just kept blowing up, or
the first trouble was the foot switch went.
right?
Um, so yeah, in the middle of a gig, I just couldn't switch between channels. That happened twice actually. In the end, I just got the Steve from PMT to just whack a new cable on it. I didn't send it back to PRS because
Mm.
I sort of trust his kind of wiring and stuff. Um, the the lead that goes from the back of the amp to the speaker that went a bit funny. And yeah, some soldering on the inside went as well.
Right.
And I think it's just it was it was quite cheaply
Okay.
made, I should say. As much as I hate to say it, it just said made in China on the back, so it was clearly done by a machine that just tried to whack on the smallest amount of solder possible.
Mm.
And yeah, it didn't seem like a gigging amp.
No, but I think that yeah, that happens. Do you like a dual channel amp, or do you get by with single channel? What are you using live at the moment?
So when it comes to gear, I've tried to simplify everything now.
Mm.
I don't want to set up too much stuff with the amount of gigs that we were doing. I like quite an easy setup and a quick pack down.
Sure.
So yeah, I ended up getting the RK50, the Victory amp, and that's just a single channel. It's got one tone knob, reverb, master volume, built-in tremolo and reverb.
Nice.
So
What's it based off of, if you don't mind me? It's like a Marshall thing, is it a
I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's like one of his old kind of Cornford sort of
right?
amps because Martin Kidd worked for Cornford and did a lot of work with Richie Kotzen back then. So I think it was just like a smaller, more affordable version of some of those kind of like 100-watt Cornford heads.
Mm. Interesting.
But yeah, it's for me it was all about simplicity. I rock up to the gig, I turn the gain on just past 1 o'clock. The rest of it's controlled with the guitar.
Right. That's cool though.
It's got a boost function, just adds an extra gain stage. So my pedal board now is a wah pedal, the boost pedal for the amp, and the tremolo and reverb on and off from the amp. I'm
Right.
not actually
Oh, cool.
using.
It's tremolo and reverb in there as well.
Yeah.
That is handy. So yeah, you are really minimalist. One guitar, like probably like two or three pedals, I guess.
So when it comes to pedals that aren't to do with the amp, I'm actually just using the wah pedal.
Right. Okay.
If I can be bothered, I'll set up a delay in the effects loop, but
Mm.
I can kind of take it or leave it at the moment, really.
Delay's really odd, isn't it? I know a lot of people who are like, "Gotta have delay, man. Can't do leads without delay." But then when you're in the moment and you're playing, you kind of don't care. It just kind of you forget.
Yeah. I've always used delay as a kind of sort of atmospheric,
Mm.
bounce it from left to right kind of thing. That's my jam. Like nice sweet cleans.
Yeah, yeah. I do like it on solos, but it's very like, yeah, I don't know if it was like if it's just a lead with like a standard 300 millisecond thing behind it. It's nice to have, but whether it's massively necessary, I don't know. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I kind of went through a stage of learning quite a bit of country, so
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of
so a
really
slap, yeah,
short delay.
yeah, like a slap. Good little trick actually. I could share this with the audience, and I'll share this with you as well. If you want to dial in the perfect speed of slap back delay, make it sound like the word chicken nugget. It's really weird,
Okay,
but if you when you're dialing it in and you're like, I can't get the speed right, just you want it to go chicken nugget like that, and then you automatically
okay,
get the
all
speed
right.
right. But I've used that a couple of times and it always works. So
I'm
handy.
definitely going to remember that
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. So how I'm interested moving away from Git a little bit, like how do you stop yourself buying stuff and just getting back into creative? How do you like inspire yourself to do you find it relatively easy to sit down and just play or create things or
I
you know
think my want for whenever I kind of felt the need to buy gear, it would have been because I maybe had an off gig or an off bit of practice, or just, you just go through those periods where things just don't seem to sort of fall into place with your playing.
I think it's really common, man. I think that's where most of us get there, you know.
Yeah, and then you start thinking, well, maybe if I get this, that will help, or this will kind of sort of add to it. I've never really been chasing someone's tone, so it wouldn't really be that reason, but just for kind of, yeah, if things weren't feeling right, I would start thinking about it. But I guess what stopped me from doing that was just the simple realization was that I was practicing the same things, playing the same things at gigs, and the gig the night before would be fantastic. Play the same songs the next day, and it just wouldn't feel right.
Mm,
And that wouldn't have been down to the gear; it would have been down to me.
right. So like you would have had just had one day where it went well, and then the next day, well, I mean, it
Yeah,
might not.
literally, same songs, like one day after the other, and one was amazing. You came off stage absolutely buzzing, and then the next day you just came off just like, oh, that's crap.
Mm. It,
Um,
I mean, rooms can make a difference as well, right? Or crowds, like audiences. I've definitely had days like that where it's like the audience just not into it, and then you instantly do that thing where you put it on yourself and you go, "Oh, I couldn't get the crowd going." When you realize it's not actually your responsibility. Sometimes they're just not into it.
well, that's exactly it. I mean, we've obviously, yeah, played quite a few venues where you walk in, you start playing the songs, and you're just like, you look at the crowd and you're just like, yeah, they're probably not going to dig this.
Mm.
But with the Soul Strutters, when that happens, we just play for ourselves.
Yeah, which is a great
You know,
thing to do. It's nice to be with other people. We used to share a gig actually. We used to do the Brass Pig up on the Clifton Triangle, and man,
exactly.
that was one of the weirdest gig for like some nights you just get in there. So it was mostly students, right? At the Brass Pig. Some nights you get in there, and I don't know what it is. They were just up for it, and you'd have them from the word go. But they were rare most of the times, and I find it really interesting that because I spoke to Jack, your keyboard player, a couple of times, and he said the same thing. Like, yeah, some nights they're just not into it, which I find really interesting because you guys are, you're doing funk and soul. You're a dancey band. I imagine you just get the vibe going automatically. But even Jack said there are some nights where they just didn't go for it.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, yeah, some people just want to hear what they know. The amount of time, I'm sure you've had it, where people come to your gigs, be like, "Oh, can you play something we know?"
Yeah.
Like, I hate that.
Mm.
But yeah, with the Brass Pig, a lot of the stuff, these kids would have sort of been listening to stuff from the noughties onwards, and
Mm.
we're jamming out stuff from the 70s, 80s, maybe some 90s R&B and things. So I can kind of understand if they don't know the songs, but I mean, give it a chance.
Yeah. Well, it's the vibe, right? Because you guys are just. I think with a band like yours, it's it doesn't really matter whether you know the songs necessarily. They're all easy to dance to. They've all got a groove, and you just kind
And
of get.
apparently in the Brass Pig, it really does matter.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Did you basically make the smoking area outside really busy?
I might have done some days. I'm sure
Like,
there were some days I was amazed at some stuff that would work. Like because I would play a mix and I would play kind of my staples. And I remember one night I did like I was just so done with it. Like I was just not having a good night. And I did what you guys did with Soul Strutters, where I just went, right, well, I'm just going to play this gig for me because they're not really listening. And randomly, I decided I started doing an Ed Sheeran song, and anyone who knows anything about me just knows I just hate playing Ed Sheeran songs. And then halfway through, which I quite often do with acoustic songs, I go, these chords sound like another song. And then as I was playing them, I went into Helena, which is a My Chemical Romance song.
Okay.
And I just was like, oh, I vaguely remember this. I'll just give it a go. It doesn't matter that no one's listening. And the whole place was singing the chorus of it, which was really.
Awesome.
But they're that age group. Like they're not much younger than me. They're sort of, they'll be 20, maybe 20, 21. I'm 27. So that kind of emo thing was still around, but the whole place just went off, and you just couldn't believe it. I have similar arguments sometimes with when I was in my regular band, I used to say to the guy, oh, let's just try this thing that we do. I go, oh, it never works. And I just go, you can't say that though, depending on the crowd.
Well, that's it. You don't, on the personal basis, you don't know what everyone listens to, so you might as well give it a go sometimes.
If it's not working, it's worth a shot, right?
Yeah, that's it. At the Brass Pig, every now and again we chuck in a rare groove track just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Some people, sometimes they dig it, sometimes they don't. But I think one of the funniest gigs we had there was we were playing to about 2 people.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, 3 coachloads of uni students from Birmingham just arrive. And it went from playing to 200 people to like 300 people jam-packed for about 45 minutes.
Right.
And then they just left. It was just like, oh, yeah. And then we had to go from just kind of having all that energy to having to sort of tone it back down again. I was like, oh.
I bet the owners and the bar staff were buzzing at the fact that you were that you stopped playing and they all left. 'Cause you're like, it's not my fault, man. I just got to stop.
Well, no, but they left whilst we were playing. They were obviously on a bar crawl or something. So just that kind of and that's the beauty of it. We were sort of playing some chilled out stuff, and then we were able to sort of step it up a gear.
Sure, but a gig like that where you were playing to 2 people, throughout the night, would that be a sort of a thing where the next day you might start gear shopping again because you've had a night like that?
No, because like I said, we would play for ourselves.
Sure.
And we've got this in joke, the song Hercules by Aaron Neville.
Yeah.
We always joke about, we could say like, oh, open with 20-minute Hercules
Nice.
if no one's caring, because we'll just jam it out for 20 minutes, and that will always be really good fun.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I don't know, it's just when it doesn't feel right, I will go for new gear. Well, think about sort of new gear. My latest acquisition, kind of keeping on gear, was that Torpedo Captor X.
Yeah, they were great, right? They're like cabinet simulators, right?
Yeah, so it's cab simulator, attenuator, load box, and all of that kind of stuff. I bought that just so I could record the RK50 head, really.
Right.
Because as you know, with a valve amp, you want to crank it.
Yeah. Well, you need to get the volume up there. And does it do? So it's full cabinet emulation. Does it do mic emulation as well, or is it just model the cabinet?
Oh, everything.
Right.
It came with about 40 cabinets preloaded, and there's like 6 mics to choose from each cabinet. You can dual mic each cab.
Yeah.
It's got a noise gate, EQ, reverb, built-in stereo reverb.
They're like that whole thing of cabinet modelers and things like that. They're total game changers. They really are. Like now we're not limited to if we want to record stuff, we're not stuck with having to mic things and turn them up, which for most of us, we can't afford our own studios or sometimes even the studio time. So being able to do it at home and just model it is, I probably don't regret buying my aux box for the same reason, because it just, if you need it, it's there and it sounds great. I've done a load of recording over.
It's a fantastic piece of kit.
It's really small as well, right? It's only like that big or something.
Got it plugged in. Hang on.
Oh wow, yeah, tiny. Yeah.
Just that. Yeah, fantastic piece of kit. It's got dual out as well, and it does stereo tracking.
Nice.
So yeah, it sounds like there's 2 people playing.
Well, I seem to remember as well. It doesn't cost as much as.
When I first looked into sort of load boxes and came across the aux box, I was just like, nah, maybe not.
Yeah, it's a lot of cash.
And then saw that one, I was like, actually, that's a bit more respectable.
Yeah, I think when
so that's literally the most recent thing I bought, and that was to do recording at home with the RK50. And yeah, I've already used it quite a lot, which is great.
Yeah, that is great.
Uh,
Nice.
I
Well,
used it live for that one gig we've done as well.
oh really? You just went straight out of that? You didn't even plug into the cabinet?
No, I took the cabinet with me just
Right.
in case it wasn't sort of working. But yeah,
That's
thought
killer.
I'd give it a go on the one opportunity, and yeah, works great.
Nice. Yeah, I need to do that. I need to have a little bit. What's really interesting as well as I've seen. Does it have a line out so you could plug into it and then go into the cab and then send a signal out somewhere else?
Yeah, so it does work as an attenuator.
Right.
Obviously, you can bypass it, and it will go straight into the yeah, straight into the cab. And then yeah, you got the two XLRs out, so you can have a direct feed as a monitor if you want,
Yeah, that
and
was
then one
something
going to the desk.
that was something that I'd like to try is model like a certain kind of cabinet out of the aux box, whilst miking up my main cabinet as well and blending them. I'd quite like to
Mm.
see what results I get out of that. So James, if you had any advice for people with their with their gear buying, I know you've kind of already touched on it already, but if somebody's really like, God, I'm just caught in this like cycle of I just buy things and I constantly buy and sell and things like that. Like, what would your advice be to somebody to help get them back to playing and just push that stuff away a little bit?
I think quite a lot of people. Well, actually, I might be jumping to an assumption here, but I don't think people really discover what they've already got.
Right.
If you get a bad moment, you instantly think it's not doing what you want it to. Whereas if you kind of just sat down and just kind of sort of tweaked a few things, even just to adjust the way you play slightly, um, you can get so many more sort of sounds and tones out of what you've already got than I think you realise.
Mm.
Hence why I've just kind of sort of tried to keep things simple. That the RK50 head, I think you can get so many tones out of it, and it's just a single channel amp.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of realised that because I've spent a lot of time just sat in front of the cabinet, just twisting this here and there,
Yeah.
playing a few things, and yeah, just kind of really discovering what it can do.
I think.
And I think
I
just
think.
realize if you have a bad day,
Mm.
it's probably not your gear. It's just the way you're feeling.
Yeah. 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 And don't beat yourself up about your playing as well, I suppose. It's
Exactly.
it's totally I so my personal opinion with this stuff, I might have mentioned this before, but I feel like every time you buy a new piece of gear, whether it be it a guitar, an amp, a pedal, or whatever, I think realistically you need at least a month to work out how that thing works, where it sits in your, this is coming from a guy who used to buy a new pedal every week or so. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was at my
Mm.
worst, you really do need that time to sit with it because it will fit in different situations. Different things will come up that you need to get done, and I really do think, and even more to benefit for you, I think if somebody actually saw you play, they probably would be surprised at the amount of stuff you can get out of your setup. But if you've had your setup for that, for however many years, you know what you need to do to get it to, do a sound like what you need because it's your gear.
Yeah, that's it. Like at gigs, people almost kind of seem disappointed, like when they kind of come up and they look on the floor and they're just like, oh,
Mm.
I just sometimes I just have the boost pedal for the amp on the floor. I wouldn't even have my wah pedal out.
The pedal pelicans, I like to call them, just looking
Yeah,
over like that.
because I used to have I had the one of the original gig rigs with all my sort of pedals plugged into
Yeah,
that.
I remember you having
Like
that. Yeah, when you were in the Neo Ritmo days, I remember that thing.
exactly. I've still got it. But like people will come up and be like, "Oh my god," and they
Mm.
have so many questions. And yeah, like I said, people now they just look down and they're just like, "That's crap."
Mm.
I just like, well, that's the job.
So would you ever go back to the gig rig stuff, or are you quite happy with where you are?
If I needed it, yes.
Right.
If I was writing my own stuff, I would probably need to do a few more things than what I'm using for the Soul Strutters.
Sure.
I would be turning reverbs on and off quite often, delays on and off quite often, going through a cycle of distortions,
Mm.
volume boosts and stuff like that. I would definitely use it for that. Hence why I've kept hold of it. But yeah, as it stands, I just don't need it. So I'm just not gonna. I try not to go down that rabbit hole, really.
Sure. No, fair enough. Fair enough. James, thank you for your time today, man. You've been so generous with your time with us. I just wanted to finish off with this question I ask everybody. So we want to know your minimalist setup for somebody in your sort of line of work. doing a similar kind of thing. I mean, you could probably just list your own setup, but you might want to list, maybe I don't know how attainable your PRS was, but um, basically we're looking for one guitar, one amp, and up to 3 pedals that you would suggest to get the job done. Somebody who's maybe doing a couple of functions and maybe has an original project on the side, but as minimalist as you can kind of keep it. What would you suggest?
So guitar wise, I think something Strat or Les Paul kind of esque. I think that's always a safe bet.
Mm.
That's why I really like the PRS. It's got that twang. It's got that chug.
Yeah.
I've played on a few custom 24s with the coil sort of coil
Split.
taps.
Yeah.
Once again, they're pretty versatile if you've got that. So something along those lines. I must admit, I do miss having 24 frets.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, give yourself an extra couple of frets because you never know when you need them. Amp wise, I'm loving the single channel kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, I find it quite hard to beat a decent Fender.
Sure. So any particular model that you like?
So I had a Fender Blues DeVille 4x10.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was heavy as anything, but the tone you could get out of it, and it had pedals really well. So if you're going to force me to choose a pedal, I would choose that amp over what I've already got, just because it's got a great clean sound and it's a good pedal platform. And pedal wise, I'm absolutely that SD1 that I bought for 20 quid off of my mate about 15 years ago
still does a job. Me and Ryan,
it's fantastic.
Who was in the chat earlier, both of us have talked at length about how much we love the Blues Driver, just because
great pedal.
Something about it just works and it consistently sounds good. If you know how to dial it in. I'm sure the SD1, because the SD1's similar, right? It's just kind of more there's more mid-range to it.
Yeah, for me it just kind of just had a nice little bit of, like, the tone, you could get a nice little bit of scoop on it.
Sure.
Which I always enjoyed. So yeah, for that, so I'm going to say custom 24. I'm going to stick with PRS.
Okay, cool.
Fender, any kind of sort of decent Fender clean amp. Sure. The one I know, was that Blues DeVille 4x10. And the SD1, I'm going to chuck a wah pedal in there, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, but
just because I hate it doesn't mean the rest of the world has to hate it. I understand completely.
I definitely use it. I think that's, to me, to be honest, that's kind of it.
That's good though. Tuner, or are you gonna use your ears? Headstock. Oh, one of those. Nice. Okay. Is that just like a snark one, or do you?
It's a Diodaria one, but I mean, any of them will do. Maybe avoid the tiny Diodaria ones. I find when the band is cooking, it doesn't kind of pick up just your guitar very well.
Nice one.
But yeah, that's kind of probably it, really. I wouldn't go too crazy.
No, that's great. That's great. James, thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with us. You can go and check out James's band.
No worries.
Soul Strutters. Where's the best place to check out Soul Strutters, James?
Just kind of head over to Facebook or YouTube, really. Just type in Soul Strutters Bristol, and we'll be one of the first ones that pop up.
That is a killer band as well. You've got Eric. Gonna get his last name wrong. Milo Okafor, is that how you say his last name?
You got it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Eric, and you've also got Jack Baldus on keys and Barney Sage.
Jack Baldus.
See, I got it wrong. I didn't think. Jack Baldus on keys, and then Barney Sage on drums. Right? Yeah, monster band, all killer musicians. Really, really worth checking out. And then your YouTube stuff, mate. Where do people go to check out some of your shreds and things like that? Because I really enjoyed those videos.
If you just go over to, just type in James Arbery on YouTube, I think, or my address might be just /ArburyJ.
Nice. Okay.
Oh no, it's not /James Arbery.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really cool. If you love your metal stuff, that's a really good place to go. James, thanks for your time, man. I'll catch you soon.
No worries. Thank you very much. Take it easy.